Naked Little King. The ISW calls Putin's bluff. This is what we're gonna talk about today. Hello everyone, I'm Elena. Welcome back to my channel Enough of Propaganda. Please like, subscribe, share, write comments. Let's make truth available for everyone. This is what helps to promote it on YouTube. Thank you. In this video, I'll provide you a summary of the very important article by the Institute for the Study of War, denying Russia's only strategy for success, from March 27th of this year. Why this article is very important? Because in one place you can find everything you need to know about Russia and Russian propaganda and what is happening, and this is all in one place and well put out, and I highly encourage you to read the article itself because basically it's a bit long. It's about 11 pages. My summary would be shorter, but it is very important to read this article for yourself, to find out how it is done to us, what is done to us, and so on. So, as a short summary, Russia's chance of victory depends on Putin's ability to intimidate the West, primarily the United States. Much of the talk about Russia's strengths is a bluff, orchestrated by Kremlin, with limited success for its army. So it's a bluff. Propaganda emerges as Putin's strongest weapon, aimed at shaping Western disclosure. Once the West sees through Putin's tricks, Ukraine can achieve a decisive victory, leading to lasting peace. Failure risks Ukrainian lives, undermines United States strategic interests, and strengthens Russia. Overcoming Kremlin's manipulation is crucial for deterring future conflicts and maintaining decision advantage. This is what we're going to talk about today, and I will tell you how this article is connected to the beach and people swimwear. Before we will dive deeper, I want you to look at the people on the beach. And it kind of reminds me a joke which we told in Russia. Russian couple, husband and wife, are sitting on a towel on the beach and watching people walking by. Only men in Russia, they're not wearing all those long trunks, they're wearing briefs, if I can say it correctly, like a short swimming trunks. And there is a young fellow which is kind of similar to this one, very good looking and walking and look very impressive in every way. So the wife kind of looked at him, and husband kind of noticed that she looked at the guy, and he's saying, "Mary, do you remember our neighbor John?" "Yeah, what about him?" Remember he has a huge garage which can fit a couple Corvettes in it." "Yeah, but you know that he is parking in the garage just his bicycle." So, if you getting my drift, this is what this article is about a bluff, big bluff on Putin's side. And back to the article. The most important thing to know is Russia cannot defeat Ukraine or the West, and will likely lose if the West mobilizes its resources to resist the Kremlin. Comparing GDPs, basically NATO countries, non-NATO European Union states, Asian allies of United States, it's over 63 trillion. And the Russian GDP is in close order of 1.9 trillion. And Iran and North Korea add little in terms of material support. And China is enabling Russia, but it will not basically support Russia, and unlikely will do that. And it's unwinnable for Russia. The Russian strategy that matters most, therefore, is not Moscow war-fighting strategy, but rather Kremlin's strategy to cause us to see the world as it wishes us to see it, and make decisions that Kremlin-generated alternative reality that will allow Russia to win in the real world. This is the most important part of the article, and this is what I want you to know and remember very well. From now on, I'll more stick to my shorter summary. So paragraph 1, the Kremlin strategy. The Kremlin's primary goal is to manipulate the United States into adopting Russian narratives, diverting attention from Russia's aggression in Ukraine. When I'm saying United States, this is how it's said in the article, but you can apply your country, like Canada or any other democratic countries who are supporting Ukraine. Mostly the article is about United States, but it's applicable to us all. That is why it is important to know for Canadians, for Ukrainians, and for many other people. For instance, Putin justifies the invasion of Ukraine by fabricating claims, such as Ukraine posing a threat to Russia, or Ukraine not being a legitimate nation, which isn't true. And here are my videos proving that, and so on, in case somebody needs proofs. These false narratives aiming to influence American perceptions of the costs, risks, and priorities involved in supporting Ukraine. The Kremlin also floods Western disclosure with irrelevant narratives and historical distortions, diverting attention from valuable solutions to the conflict. Despite efforts to debunk these falsehoods, they persist in shaping Western discussions and decisions. It's crucial for Americans to recognize and counter these manipulative tactics to uphold their own interests and support Ukraine effectively. This video, Give Alaska to Russia, America to the UK, your money and property to me, will explain you that tactics very well. When Russia trying to drag the world into discussions of the history and false historical narratives Putin created in his mind, absolutely making it up as he goes. And his last interview with Tucker Carlson, one of the proofs of that. So you're welcome to check it out. And this is what's really happening in reality. This is what is really happening. Meanwhile, Russia distorts concepts like peace and defense to suit its agenda. Peace is equal and equated with Ukrainian surrender, and Ukrainian's defense is portrayed as aggression. When Ukraine defending itself, Russia portraying it as aggression. Ukraine is bombing Crimean Kerch Strait Bridge because this is the valued military target. This is how Russia supplies its army in killing Ukrainians. And what Russia is screaming? Terrorism. This is not true, but this is what agenda Russia is pushing to the world. The Kremlin exploits the Western inclination towards peace by presenting its aggressive actions as efforts towards peace, despite its continuous assaults in Ukraine's sovereignty and identity. And Russia's demands under the guise of peace consistently entail the dismantling of Ukrainian sovereignty, revealing its true intention of seeking Ukrainian surrender rather than genuine peace. And Putin already proved time and time again, and in my videos you saw about Donbass and everything, what is Russian ceasefire means. All Putin wants is a ceasefire, not peace. Just to bring more troops and kill more people. This is I kinda add from myself, and I already had videos to back it up. Resisting Russian aggression is portrayed as escalation. Ukraine's defensive actions against Russian aggression are often labeled as escalatory by Western disclosure, playing into the Kremlin's narrative of Ukraine as the aggressor. Meanwhile, Western responses to Russian aggression have been largely non-escalatory, marked by negotiations and concessions, despite Russia's belligerent actions. The Kremlin shapes Western disclosure by exploiting existing trends like skepticism towards Western interventions. By framing any Western actions against Russia as aggression, the Kremlin deflects attention from its own atrocities and seeks to manipulate internal Western debates to its advantage. So basically, Western people tend to think about peace, about how nice to have peace, war is bad, let's vote for peace, and turn out to be that's not what Putin wants. This is not what Putin wants. He doesn't want peace. He wants to destroy Ukraine. But he presented it as peace, and the peaceful people in the West think, yeah, peace is good, it's a good idea. But this is not Putin wants. He keep attacking Ukraine, even during ceasefires on Donbass, for example. Ukraine ceasefire, and Russia keep killing Ukrainians and keep moving forward during the ceasefire. And stuff like that. And now, basically, that manipulation was going on for at least a decade during the war in Ukraine, and before that with other wars like Georgia and so on. This is a kind of adding from myself. Overall, the Kremlin's efforts aim to distort reality and manipulate Western perceptions to serve its interests, undermining efforts to address the war in Ukraine effectively. Perception manipulation. Putin's strategy relies on shaping perception of Russia's power, projecting an image of strength despite of limited capabilities. In the context of Ukraine, the Kremlin relies on its strategy due to its insufficient military capability to achieve maximalist objectives if faced with Ukraine's determination to resist alongside Western support. So, as I said, he has garage for 2 Corvettes and he keeping a bicycle. A bluff. This is a bluff, basically. The strategy allows Russia to gain advantages without necessarily improving its capabilities. In Ukraine, degrading US decision-making is crucial for bridging the gap between Russia's goals and means. So Russia doesn't necessarily has to become better, bigger, and more capable. All it matters that they project the image that they are. And they trying to intimidate and scare the West and Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't buy in it, but the West sometimes, some people on the West sometimes buying into this bluff. Global perception manipulation. Russia employs information operations globally to shape perceptions in its favor. Since 2014, there's been a shift in Russian strategy towards emphasizing perception shaping to achieve its goals. Controlling perceptions within Russia is crucial for Putin's regime's stability. The Kremlin aims to create an environment where the world accepts Russian premises, such as Russia's right to act within its self-declared sphere of influence. By achieving this acceptance, Russia could exert its will on its neighbors with fewer obstacles, potentially even weakening institutions like NATO by forcing them to abandon key principles. So basically, it tells NATO what to do. You should not allow certain countries to join. Any independent country could join NATO if they apply and if they acceptable because of they following the rules and basically NATO has rules who they accept, and if the country is acceptable and applied, any country has rights to apply and be accepted into NATO. Any independent country. And Putin himself, even in my videos, saying that Ukraine is an independent country and they can do whatever they want. Now Putin tried to say different things that, oh, Ukraine not even a country, oh, Ukraine isn't allowed to join. Sweden and Finland just joined NATO and that was okay. And Ukraine didn't, and it's still not okay. Controlling perceptions within Russia itself is crucial for Putin's regime. Putin's rule depends on maintaining the perception that there is no valuable alternative to him, or that any alternative would be too costly to pursue. And basically, killing his opposition means that he's trying to make sure Russians know there is no alternative to him. Through a combination of physical and informational means, the Kremlin has instilled a sense of inaction among the Russian population, allowing Putin to rule with less suppression than might otherwise will be necessary. Ukraine's resilience. Despite susceptibility to Kremlin's manipulation, Ukraine has shown strategic clarity in resisting Russian aggression. From volunteers defending against Russian aggression in 2014 to repelling a full-scale invasion in 2022, Ukraine has demonstrated resilience. Growing immunity to Russian manipulations within Ukraine, civil society has been instrumental in maintaining Ukraine's sovereignty. Our susceptibility. This is point 2 of the text. The susceptibility of the United States to Kremlin manipulations is not solely due to Russia's efforts, but also stems from inherent American traits and blind spots. And among them values, the United States values peace, life, and freedom of debate, setting it apart from Russia. The Western way of life also makes it difficult for Americans to comprehend the extent of Russia's actions, such as willingness to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of its own citizens to conquer Ukraine. Russia exploits these values to manipulate American perceptions, making it hard to grasp the severity of its actions. Defeatism and legacy of wars. Past wars, like in Afghanistan or in Vietnam, shape America's awareness of prolonged conflicts and contribute to concerns about endless wars. However, discussions about the risks of a lone war in Ukraine often mistakenly frame it as if the United States were directly involved, which they are not. And in reality, Ukraine is fighting its own war against a common adversary, and American psychological scars from previous conflicts should not dictate US policy towards Ukraine. United States is not part of this war. They're not fighting, not dying in Ukraine. This is what we need to know and remember. Misunderstanding the threat. Despite learning about Russia's intentions and capabilities, the US still underestimates the Russian threat. Prioritizing China over Russia overlooks the broader implications of a Russian victory in Ukraine, which would not only embolden US adversaries, but also demonstrate that the United States can be manipulated into abandoning its interests in a winnable fight, posing a significant threat to US security. And this my video can prove that. Evidence that Russia attacked NATO. Russia already did it in the past. So this will help to understand this particular point of the article. The third point of the article, effects of US decision making. Past acceptance of Kremlin premises. Prior to 2022, the West often accepted and reasoned from the Kremlin's premises, leading to a lack of meaningful response to Russia's actions, such as de facto military occupation of Belarus and Russia-driven peace talks in Ukraine. 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 briefly woke up the West, resulting in crucial victories for Ukraine in pursuing and pushing back Russian forces in reclaiming territory. Kremlin focused on shaping Western decisions. Since the failed three-day war, the Kremlin has been busy manipulating Western decisions to its advantage. This includes delaying US military support to Ukraine, limiting Ukraine's self-defense rights, and sowing discord within NATO. The Kremlin's manipulation of Western perceptions has led to lost opportunities for Ukraine and advantages for Russia, prolonging the war. Impact of Kremlin's manipulations. Western hesitation, fueled by Kremlin-induced fears, has cost Ukraine crucial opportunities for support, such as delays in providing crucial military capabilities. Despite Western self-defense, Russia has continued to bolster its military capabilities, including developing anti-satellite weapons and procuring military equipment from North Korea and Iran, prolonging the conflict. Overall, the Kremlin's perception manipulations have extended the war and allowed Russia to sustain its aggression despite limited changes to its capabilities. Point 4. Define the Kremlin strategy. Reconnecting with reality. This is number 1. Escaping the Kremlin's fabricated reality requires the US to align with its own interests and acknowledge the truth about the war in Ukraine. Russia's objective to eliminate Ukraine as a state is unacceptable to US interests and values, and any outcome short of Ukraine reclaiming its territories poses higher risks of escalation and favors Russia. Thus, the most prudent US strategy remains supporting Ukraine and liberating its territory as the only path to a lasting peace. Ukraine's vital importance. It is essential to recognize that Ukraine's fight is about more than just its own territory. It's about defending fundamental US values and interests. A Ukrainian victory would enhance NATO security, strengthen US alliances, and restore Western deterrence capabilities against Russia. Mobilizing Western resources to support Ukraine is crucial in achieving this outcome, which entails increasing military production, committing existing military capabilities and economic assets, and accepting higher short-term costs to avert greater future risks and costs. Consequences of failure. Failing to support Ukraine could lead to catastrophic outcomes, including increased likelihood of a Russia-NATO war and a nuclear escalation. A Russian victory in Ukraine would validate the effectiveness of nuclear blackmail and undermine free will and truth in the free world. There you are. The Kremlin wants to mobilize 500,000 people by July 15th, so mobilization is already started, and this is Putin's order. Next point is benefits of supporting Ukraine. A Ukrainian victory would bolster NATO security, strengthen alliances, and restore Western deterrence against Russia. Closing the gap. Despite Russia's resources, its capacity is limited, while the West remains resilient and united against Russian aggression. The gap that Ukraine and its partners need to close to help Ukraine win is smaller than the gap Russia needs to close to achieve its goals. While Russia has mobilized significant resources, its surge capacity is not unlimited, and mobilization comes with costs and constraints. Despite having an advantages over the past decade, Russia has occupied only a portion of Ukraine at a high cost, indicating limitations in its capacity. So, by the way, Ukraine already got over 50% of its territory back, which Russia, in the 8 years took Russia to grab from Ukraine already take it back. And what does it mean mobilize 150,000 people? It means that about 350,000 will leave Russia, and it would be good people who has high standards, very good brain and capabilities and to work and stuff like that. They will run away because they don't want to be mobilized and drafted. Russia claimed it can mobilize 300,000. Well, 700,000 would leave. Russia is already having trouble right now with the workforce, and up to 1 million people it will lose this way, by mobilization and by people running away from mobilization and leaving Russia, perhaps forever. Preserving the Western advantage. The West is not as fragile as Russia portrays it to be. Attempts to freeze Europe or break NATO have failed, indicating resilience and unity among Western nations. Many Western leaders and societies have recognized Russia as a self-declared adversary and are taking steps to counter the threat. Coalitions for weapon procurement to support Ukraine are forming, defense industrial bases are being ramped up, and leaders are warning against showing weakness to Russia. However, the Western advantage is not permanent. Delays in Western decision-making erode Ukraine's agency and will to fight, while strengthening Russia's position. Putin's actions, such as restoring military districts and making rhetorical threats against neighboring countries, indicate preparations for potential future wars. Therefore, US leadership remains crucial in mobilizing Western resources, supporting Ukraine, and countering Russian aggression. The West must act decisively to preserve its advantage and ensure the security and sovereignty of Ukraine and other vulnerable nations in the region. Point 5. The next decisions. Restoring strategic clarity. Supporting Ukraine to victory. The US must recognize that backing Ukraine to victory is the best move for its interests, as it is the only path to a durable peace rather than a temporary, like a ceasefire or something. This entails providing military aid to restore Ukraine's battlefield maneuverability, bolstering its defense industry, and then helping Ukraine rebuild. By doing so, we can position the largest combat-effective friendly military in Europe at the forefront of NATO's defense. Additionally, the US and its allies should ramp up their own defense industrial bases to strengthen deterrence capabilities against Russia. The US and other Ukrainian allies need to take several specific and immediate steps. First of all, targeting Russia's capabilities. Denying sanctuaries. Russia shouldn't get a free pass while trying to erase Ukraine. We must remove constraints on Ukraine's ability to target legitimate Russian military assets and develop long-term strategies to divest from Kremlin-linked entities like Rosatom, which serves as a major arm of the Kremlin. And we should also, I can add to this, tightening up the sanctions. Especially some countries like Germany should realize that why all of a sudden countries like Tajikistan started to buy BMWs and Mercedeses, and it grew like 800% in 1 year. It's because they buying it for Russia, and this has to stop. The next point is focusing on asymmetry. Ukraine has exposed Russian weaknesses like vulnerable defense systems. The US should ramp up asymmetric warfare tactics like drone strikes to force Russia into tough resource decisions. Global targeting. We need to hit Russia's capabilities worldwide, from Africa to the Arctic. To limit its ability to sustain military operations. France knows how much Russia involved in African countries and so on, and that has to stop. And next one is stripping Kremlin's power. We must resist Kremlin's efforts to manipulate decision-making and strip away its ability to regroup on the battlefield or rebuild its military and propaganda capabilities. Sustained effort for victory. Persistence is a key. A sustained US effort rather than one-time surge is crucial to ensure Ukraine's victory and counter Russia's persistent threat. The cost of persistence are small compared to the disaster of letting Russia win. Protecting interests and principles. Upholding values. By supporting Ukraine to victory and denying Russia its sanctuaries and offset capabilities, the US can protect its interests and uphold the principles of freedom and self-determination. So this is what the article was about, and I think it's a very brilliant piece and way better than my shorter summary. And I highly recommend you to read it all. And thank you for watching. Learn the truth and stay informed. Have a great day or evening. See you later.